Wherever you are, welcome to a slightly different take on China, because this is a bit of a travelogue. One of my greatest aspects of my new life as a vlogger and social media commentator in China is that as my audience grows, I often get asked to visit places that I would not usually have visited. The fee, if we want to call it that, is that I'm often asked to speak to the camera a few times and express my views. And to be honest, that isn't that hard to be positive about the things China does. And Hubei just gave me the opportunity to do just this. However, this one is unusual because I was invited by the Hubei International Communications Center to visit two cities, both of which I've actually been to before several times, and both of which, for most people outside of China, are relatively unknown. Both of them should and perhaps could be better known, so I'm going to make a video about each of them and introduce them to the audience. Jingzhou, which I cycled through in 2014 and again in 2019, and Yichang are the two cities, which is home to the massive Three Gorges Dam project. I first visited Yichang in 2005 after getting off a cruise starting in Chongqing with a friend. I passed through the Three Gorges and I went there again a few years later with my late father, and again just a couple of years ago with my wife. Now, what's really important to me is seeing the changes and being able to report on them. Historically, the inside of Jingzhou city would have been very wealthy. Living outside the city would have been some farmers, some itinerant traders moving in and out, maybe some nomads. But that's all changed now. The population has risen so much that few people actually live inside the city walls now, and the outside has been developed to house the more than 5 million people who live there now in relative affluence. Both cities are well developed. There's good infrastructure in both. There are international brand hotels, Western branded products, and in each city there's clear evidence of massive and quite recent investment. Jingzhou is a superb tourist destination. The city walls, if only they could talk, would have many things to tell us. It was the capital of China under the period known as the Three Kingdoms. Historically, very wealthy people would have gravitated towards this city and sought the protection it offered behind the massive city walls, which are built on the banks of the Yangtze River. Trade from here would have gone all ways, both inland through the gorges and out to the east coast to Shanghai and Wuhan. There are also many great battles in this region, hence the importance of these city walls. And the great Guan Yu, who is well known in China as both the god of war and the god of loyalty because of his great friendships during the late Han Dynasty and the Three Kingdoms period. On another note, Guan Yu's birthplace is in Shanxi, and I cycled through it just a few weeks ago, so that was interesting, but another story. There's evidence that people have lived in Jingzhou for as long as 6,000 years, but believe it or not, there's still written records being recovered and preserved going back to a period before Christ was born. Writing on bamboo, something I knew was used, but I had no idea that such a thing would still be able to be read. And that's all because of one center that I was taken to. It's not a museum, so it was an important opportunity when I was with a media group that I was able to see places like this. Without this trip, I would never have known that there is such a place in China where archaeologists and museums can send sodden lumps of rotten bamboo pulled out of the ground to be restored. And that's what makes it so exciting. Imagine reading the diary or the works of a trader who lived in the center of China at the time the Romans were building roads through Europe. History doesn't need to be guessed at when it's available in the records painstakingly recovered and restored through this place. They're covered over at the moment. I'm not allowed to show you everything because these records belong to museums. They've sent them here to be restored. They will eventually be on display in places around China and probably on loan to museums around the world. But the process is something I can tell you about. A sodden mess of sludge is recovered from an archaeological dig and it's sent here. The individual pieces are carefully separated, they're placed in a solution where they can be cleaned. After cleaning, which is painstaking, they are placed in another solution where they're then decolored because they were once light brown or yellowish and now they're currently black. The entire process takes about 6 months, but once it's finished, the bamboos are sealed into a container and can be displayed and read like a book. Now, of course, some of the characters are different, so it might take an historian to translate them, but one that I was looking at was obviously a school or tutorial textbook, as it showed simple multiplication of simple numbers. Moving from this room to another one, we saw on the same floor lacquer wood being restored. And again, some of these items will be on display in museums across China in a few months or in future years. The process uses exactly the same minerals and dye sources that were used 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. The ancient world is coming to life again. But equally important, if not more so, is that the modern world is really coming to life here too. Outside the town, along the G207, a road I've actually cycled up and down at different times, we went to a vineyard, a place where grapes are grown, but wine isn't made here. The grapes are sold globally as well as domestically, and during the full season, there would be many sellers here live streaming through 5G, selling a product that came off the vine today and could be on your dining tables tomorrow through express delivery. And that's something else China has excelled at developing with incredibly reasonable prices. If you enjoyed this video, stick with me because in a few days' time I will tell you all about what I learned in Yichang, which has far more to see than just a huge dam. Through ancient history into modern technology, like the rest of China, Hubei is leading the world, and yet hardly any tourists go there. I'd strongly suggest that needs to be changed.